Everyone. So I've had a few questions about how I made my teardrop camper. So I thought I'd do a video on how I did it. I can't show you every single step, mainly because I kind of built it over several months, put it aside, came back to it, and I changed a few little bits as I did it. But I can show you the basics on it. So the first thing I did was go to Google and do a bunch of research. If you type something like teardrop trailer plans, you'll find lots of plans, hopefully, some with measurements and things. Some of those ones aren't too good, but there's a whole bunch of them, and there's slightly different styles of teardrops and various bits as well, homemade ones, factory ones you can buy. I think this might have been one of the images I used. Is it loading? There we go. Let's have a look. Right, so that kind of thing, and that one doesn't have measurements, but you can find them with measurements. So essentially you cut out each side, build a platform, a chassis, a top which is curved, which is a wee bit tricky, and then you're pretty much ready to go. So I use something called a Cricut cutter. So that's the software there, and there's my Cricut cutter underneath. I'll open it up. It's a vinyl cutter. There are ones from other brands like Brother and I think Silhouette make them. However, I picked the Cricut. This is a Cricut Maker, and they're up to Cricut Maker 3 now, specifically because it will cut or score styrene plastic. Usually I use something like this, say 0.5 mil. It will do thicker. What's that, 0.25? So it'll usually cut 0.5 mil right through. If you use 0.75, 1 mil or 1.5 mil, it may not cut all the way through, but it will cut it enough that you can kind of pop it out. Kind of score and break might be a different way of describing it. So in the software, I basically took a plan, something like that, and I made the shape on my Cricut Cutter software called Cricut Design Space. Once I've done that, now each side, so there's, as you can see, to set this up, need a better camera stand. Right, so this side has just a window cut out, so that, this side has just a window cut out, so that's this one up here. This side has the door, and that's the door there. So when it cuts, it's going to cut the white piece out basically and cut around. So you will be left with a door with a window cut out of it afterwards. Then I did these sort of skeletal bits, which are this bit on the outside. Oops. This bit around the outside, and that's what I then inlaid the wood veneer into. So some of the real ones have it kind of like that. This is what the bits come out of. This is probably 1 mil thick styrene. So unfortunately, oh no, I did both sides. I haven't got a spare skeletal one. This was just a test one. So basically you have those together. I'd use probably a piece of 1 or 2 mil thick styrene as a floor. So you would kind of glue it together like that. And then what I did is I had pieces of square tubing across at various parts to provide the structure on the top, you can kind of see underneath on this curved bit what I've done. So these cross struts go across. These two green bits here are for the door at the back. So that's this piece here. So the door was a wee bit tricky, but essentially the same thing. So I've got the two curves, I put the cross pieces on, and then I've wrapped a piece of metal over it, just gluing it on using super glue. The metal I've used is called shim metal. It's very thin. I don't know how thin, but it's thin. You can cut it with a scalpel or craft knife. So I just measured a piece there, cut it to length, glued it at the bottom. So started at the bottom and then glued across each of those beams, the structural beams, and then just folded it over, and then I taped it all down. I might be able to show you a picture of that, so that it was held flat. That worked reasonably well. For the door, so you can see it hinges up. The door is narrower, so it fits inside the walls, and I kind of put it in before I put the roof on, and drilled just a wee hole in there, and then put just a tiny little screw in. It's like a 1mm screw, which you can see there. Okay, it's not particularly in focus, but so there's basically one of those on each side. That was kind of the trickiest bit, to be honest, to try and get all that to line up. And then put the piece of metal across there, and that's pretty much it. I'll put a wee bead in there, but that's basically it. The door, I've just got a couple of small brass hinges just on the outside. It's not going to want to open. Oh, there we go. So they work quite well. This is just some square tubing for the hitch. These are 1940s Ford rear fenders, Nomad tires, wheels, and just a piece of wooden dowel actually, and a square tube for the axle. So keeping it pretty simple. So there you go. That's basically it. Now, a couple of other things I was going to mention. If you don't have a Cricut cutter, because they're not cheap machines, I'd definitely recommend one though, if you want to do a lot of this stuff. But if you had that shape on a piece of paper or a cardboard template, you could cut that out of styrene yourself. It just may not be quite as mathematically correct, if you like, but you would be able to do that. So yeah, there you go. How to make a teardrop trailer. Yeah, hope that helps.